In our parasha is a topic that for many, many years the Jewish people never had to deal with, and that was the topic of warfare. Since the destruction of the Second Temple and the exile of the Jewish people to the diaspora, they basically lived in small communities. They had no sovereign country, they had no leader, they certainly had no army. And therefore many of the laws that had to do with warfare, how one exactly should wage warfare, fell into disuse. And they only became relevant again with the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948. Now suddenly Jews had the IDF, the Tzahal, the Israeli Defense Force, and questions came about how exactly do we wage warfare? How do we do so morally? How do we make sure that we limit civilian casualties as much as possible? And a lot of that information is in fact contained in this week's Parsha, in Parshat Shoftim, which speaks about the Jewish people going out to battle and how exactly they have to treat their enemies. Do they have to, for example, first mention to them that before we attack you, we offer you peace? Or do they just attack? And we have a very interesting tradition, and this goes back to the battle that the Jewish people fought against Midian. This was very shortly before they came into the land of Israel. And Moshe put together a fighting force, and it says, Vayitzba'u al Midian. They went and they got together and they fought against Midian. And the Midrash tells us that Moshe gave them very, very specific instructions. Moshe told them that they had to surround their enemies, but only on three sides. The one side they had to leave open. And this was generally what was done when the Jewish people would lay siege to a city. They would surround it on three sides, but they would leave one side open. What is the thinking behind this? So most of the commentators explain that this was a source of compassion and mercy. Even in war, where people become cruel and they forget their humanity and they are driven to do terrible, terrible things, Hashem says to us, do not forget your humanity. Do not forget that you are a holy people. Give them the opportunity to escape. If they want to escape, let one side open and they can escape. Don't surround them all on all sides. That is the conventional wisdom. Ramban Nachmanides gives us another explanation, which is in fact quite brilliant. And he says, no, this is not a sign of mercy. This is a clever military strategy. Why is that so? He says, because if you surround an enemy on all four sides, they have no choice but to fight. They cannot escape. They will fight to the last man because they feel that they are threatened. You hem them in. And this is psychology. And it works today. Not just on the battleground, but even in the office or in school. If you give a person no room out, they're going to fight to an inch of their lives to protect themselves. But if you give a person a way out, an escape route, they're not going to fight as much because they know in the back of their mind that they can always escape if necessary. And this idea of Nachmanides can be used to explain what happens in our generation. Our generation has a terrible problem with commitment. A lack of commitment, specifically when it comes to relationships, marriages. We see, for example, so many people getting married and getting divorced very soon thereafter. This is something that is common in Hollywood. Why is it so? Because people go into the relationship believing they have an easy escape route. That's why many people refuse to get married. They just cohabit for many, many years. Why? Because it's very easy to leave a situation like that. When one is in a marriage, when one is, so to speak, surrounded on all sides, it's not so simple to just get out of it. You will make sure to fight for your marriage, to fight for your relationship. And that is the idea of Judaism. In Judaism, we find that the mitzvot surround us on all sides. There's a famous book called the Sefer HaCharedim, where the author, Rabbi Eliezer Azikri in Sfat, divided up the mitzvot that we do with different parts of our body. There are mitzvot that we do with our hands, with our mouths, with our ears, with our heads, with our legs. Every part of us is surrounded by a mitzvot. As it were, God has surrounded us on all sides because He wants our full commitment each and every way. But if we know we've got an easy escape route, we're not going to fight as hard. We're not that committed. This is what we learn from the laws of warfare. Yes, they apply on the battlefield, but they apply in life also. If you want to be committed, you have to know there's no easy escape route. And then you will fight with passion. I wish you a Shabbat Shalom.